The Battle of Stalingrad. Introduction. The Battle of Stalingrad, fought between August 23, 1942 and February 2, 1943, is one of the most pivotal and grueling battles in the history of warfare. This engagement between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union during World War II marked a turning point in the conflict on the Eastern Front. It is renowned for its unprecedented brutality, strategic significance, and the enormous loss of life. The battle not only changed the course of World War II, but also had a profound impact on the subsequent history of Europe. Background and prelude to battle. The strategic importance of Stalingrad. Stalingrad, now known as Volgograd, was strategically important for several reasons. Located on the western bank of the Volga River, it was a major industrial city, producing armaments and tractors. Its capture would disrupt Soviet transport routes and secure the left flank of the German armies advancing into the Caucasus, where Hitler aimed to seize vital oil fields. Symbolically, its name, honoring Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, made it a target of significant political and psychological value. Operation Barbarossa and German advances. Operation Barbarossa. The German invasion of the Soviet Union, launched in June 1941, initially met with tremendous success, advancing deep into Soviet territory. By the summer of 1942, the German Wehrmacht had regrouped and launched a renewed offensive, codenamed Operation Blue, targeting the southern Soviet Union. The plan was to capture the oil-rich Caucasus region and Stalingrad. Initial stages of the battle. German advance to Stalingrad. In late August 1942, the German 6th Army, under General Friedrich Paulus, supported by the 4th Panzer Army, reached the outskirts of Stalingrad. The Luftwaffe commenced a massive bombing campaign, reducing much of the city to rubble and inflicting heavy civilian casualties. Despite the devastation, the city's defenders, consisting of the Soviet 62nd Army under General Vasily Chuikov, prepared to defend every street and building. The Soviet defense. The Soviet strategy was to draw the Germans into close-quarters combat, where their advantages in tanks and aircraft would be less effective. The Soviet High Command, Stavka, ordered Chuikov to hold the city at all costs. The defenders fortified the city, using the ruins to their advantage, and civilians were mobilized to assist in the war effort. The battle for the city. Urban warfare. The battle quickly devolved into brutal urban combat, characterized by intense house-to-house fighting. Both sides fought tenaciously for every building, street, and factory. Landmarks such as the Mamayev-Kurgan Hill, the Red October Factory, the Barakati Factory, and the Tractor Factory became epicenters of fierce clashes. The combat was extraordinarily ferocious, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. The Soviet strategy of hugging the enemy, staying as close to German positions as possible, negated the effectiveness of German air and artillery strikes. The Germans dubbed this type of combat Rattenkrieg, or Rat War, reflecting its chaotic and grueling nature. The role of the Volga River. The Volga River played a critical role in the battle, serving as a lifeline for Soviet supplies and reinforcements. Despite relentless German bombing and artillery fire, the Soviets managed to ferry troops, ammunition, and food across the river, often under the cover of night. The river also provided a route for evacuating the wounded. The turning point, Operation Uranus. Soviet counteroffensive planning. As the battle raged in the city, Soviet commanders, including Generals Georgy Zhukov and Alexander Vasilevsky, were planning a massive counteroffensive codenamed Operation Uranus. The plan aimed to encircle the German 6th Army by striking at the weaker flanks held by Romanian and Italian troops, which were less well-equipped and trained compared to the German units. Launch of Operation Uranus. On November 19, 1942, the Soviet forces launched their counteroffensive. The attack began with a massive artillery barrage, followed by a pincer movement that quickly overwhelmed the Axis flanks. By November 23, the two Soviet pincers had linked up at the town of Kalach, encircling approximately 300,000 Axis troops in and around Stalingrad. The German response. The German High Command was initially slow to react to the encirclement, underestimating the scale of the Soviet offensive. Hitler ordered Paulus to hold his ground and forbade any breakout attempts, believing that the Luftwaffe could supply the encircled forces by air. However, the airlift operation, led by General Wolfram von Richthofen, failed to deliver the necessary supplies due to Soviet anti-aircraft defenses, bad weather, and logistical shortcomings. The siege and collapse of the German 6th Army. Life in the encircled pocket. Conditions within the encircled German pocket rapidly deteriorated. Food, ammunition, and medical supplies dwindled, leading to severe shortages and a collapse in morale. The harsh Russian winter exacerbated the suffering, with temperatures plummeting and frostbite becoming common among the ill-equipped German soldiers. Soviet pressure and final assault. Throughout December 1942 and January 1943, the Soviets tightened their stranglehold on the encircled forces. They launched repeated attacks to shrink the pocket and capture key positions. Despite several German attempts to break through the encirclement, most notably Operation Winterstorm led by Field Marshal Erich von Manstein, all efforts failed. Paulus's surrender. By late January 1943, the situation for the German Sixth Army had become untenable. On January 30th, 1943, Hitler promoted Paulus to the rank of Field Marshal, implying that he should commit suicide rather than surrender, as no German Field Marshal had ever been captured alive. However, on January 31st, 1943, Paulus surrendered to Soviet forces, defying Hitler's expectations. The remaining German forces in the southern pocket surrendered on February 2nd, 1943. Aftermath and impact. Casualties and destruction. The Battle of Stalingrad was one of the deadliest engagements in human history. Estimates of total casualties vary, but it is generally accepted that around 2 million people were killed, wounded, or captured. The Soviets suffered approximately 1.1 million casualties, including soldiers and civilians. German and Axis casualties were estimated at 850,000, with around 90,000 German soldiers taken prisoner. Only about 6,000 of these would survive captivity and return home after the war. The city of Stalingrad was left in ruins, with vast swaths of the city completely destroyed. The battle also left a lasting psychological impact on both sides, symbolizing the horrors and futility of war. Strategic consequences. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad marked a significant turning point in World War II. It ended German advances into the Soviet Union and marked the beginning of a series of successful Soviet offensives that would push the Germans back toward the West. The loss of the German Sixth Army dealt a severe blow to the Wehrmacht's capabilities and morale. The symbolism of Stalingrad. Stalingrad became a symbol of Soviet resilience and determination. The victory bolstered Soviet morale and demonstrated to the Allies that the Soviet Union was a formidable force capable of defeating the German military. For the Germans, Stalingrad became synonymous with military disaster and the limits of their expansionist ambitions. Long-term impact. The battle had far-reaching consequences for post-war Europe. It contributed to the eventual downfall of Nazi Germany and the redrawing of European borders. The immense loss of life and destruction also underscored the need for post-war reconstruction and reconciliation. Personal accounts and memoirs. The Battle of Stalingrad has been extensively documented through personal accounts, memoirs, and historical studies. These narratives provide valuable insights into the experiences of those who fought and lived through the battle. Soviet accounts. Soviet accounts often emphasize the heroism and sacrifice of the Red Army soldiers and the civilian population. General Vasily Chuikov, who commanded the 62nd Army, wrote extensively about the battle, highlighting the strategic challenges and the indomitable spirit of his troops. His memoirs, along with those of other Soviet commanders, offer a detailed perspective on the tactics and decisions that led to the Soviet victory. German accounts. German accounts, such as those by General Friedrich Paulus and his officers, provide a stark contrast, often focusing on the initial successes and the eventual despair and hopelessness within the encircled forces. The memoirs of soldiers like Heinrich Gerlach, who survived the battle and subsequent Soviet captivity, offer poignant insights into the human cost of the conflict. Civilian perspectives. The experiences of civilians caught in the crossfire are also documented in various accounts. Many residents of Stalingrad endured unimaginable hardships, including bombardments, starvation, and the constant threat of death. Their stories add a vital dimension to understanding the full impact of the battle on the city's population. Cultural and historical legacy. Literature and film. The Battle of Stalingrad has inspired numerous works of literature and film, reflecting its enduring significance. Notable examples include Vasily Grossman's novel Life and Fate, which offers a sweeping portrayal of the battle and its broader impact on Soviet society, and the film Enemy at the Gates, which dramatizes the experiences of a Soviet sniper during the battle. Memorials and commemorations. Stalingrad is commemorated through various memorials and museums, the most prominent being the Mamayev-Kurgan complex, which includes the iconic statue, The Motherland Calls. These sites serve as reminders of the sacrifices made and the importance of remembering the lessons.